Or should we say, lights, camera, Alice. Thank you, clapboard guy.
You're welcome.
Who was that guy? Anyway, Olivia, don't think I didn't notice that fancy boa you're wearing. This old thing. Well, you know, once I knew we were doing a story about Hollywood. Hollywood? You know, I had to do, as the kids say, represent. And you are representing quite divinely. Thank you. Also me, did you notice what I was wearing? Yes, I noticed that you were wearing shades almost as cool as mine. Very nice. So, are you ready to get glamorous with me? Yes? Let's go Hollywood, y'all! With the thrilling true adventures of the first woman filmmaker. Oh, Alice, I can't wait to hear all about you. Lights, camera, Alice. I'd never heard about her, saw the book, and I thought, oh, darling, we must have this. Once there was a little girl named Alice. Hi, Alice. Oh, isn't she cute? And she lived on stories. Oh, like KidTimeStoryTime? Her grandmère, that's grandmother in French, fed her folk tales as she stirred the cherry soup. Her nursemaid spun colorful yarns as she helped button up her boots. Colorful yarns, colorful stories. Nestled with the books her papa sold, she warmed herself on stories full of laughter and surprises, romance and adventure, thrills and heartache. She couldn't wait to find out what would happen next. Then, a terrible catastrophe. Oh no. Earthquake, fire, robbers. The family business was in ruins. Finally, and worst of all, her papa died. That is a lot of catastrophe for one little story-loving girl. Now there was no money to buy soup or boots, so Alice learned, what did she learn? She learned to type, and she went out to look for work. Alice heard about a job opening at a camera company. Okay. Wait a minute, like a movie camera company? Let's see where fate takes our girl. But when she went to see the man in charge, he frowned. "This is an important post," he said. "I fear, mademoiselle, that you may be too young." "But monsieur," Alice replied, "I will get over that." Well, the man laughed, and she got the job, because we all get over being too young, eventually. The great discovery! One day, Alice and her employer went to see a brand new type of camera. The inventors turned a crank and a picture appeared. But not just a picture, a moving picture. Soon the camera company was selling the new cameras and they were a sensation. Imagine anything that happened could be caught on film to see again. Magnifique. And again. Phénoménal. And again. Oh, pardonnez-moi. Oui, oui. Alice liked the moving picture camera, but she thought it could be put to better use. Anybody could walk down a street and see workers leaving a factory or see a train pulling into a station. Why not film something special? Why not film a story? I feel like Alice and I have a lot in common. But enough about me. Back to Alice. Da da da! Starting something. Alice searched for costumes, cooked up sets, and found people to play the parts. "Oh, you'll be a perfect baby." "Wait a minute, are you a real baby?" Yes, real babies playing babies on camera. At first, Alice's films were used to show customers what the new cameras could do, but it turned out they liked her moving pictures even more than moving picture cameras. Why, they would even pay to see a story on the screen. Oh, now we're talking career potential. Making movies was exciting, but it wasn't easy. Actors could be troublesome. Oh, unless you're Olivia the Ostrich, she is divine on all sets. Curious passerbys could get in the way, and scenes might not always go as planned. Uh-oh, seems a bear got in the way of that shot. But then, who didn't love a good surprise? Next chapter, imagination, imagination. Alice found more and more ways to surprise her audience. Run the film backwards and voila! Falling down turned into flying up. That is what you call the original tricks, the special effects. Stop the camera to move a hat up here, down there, now over there. And on screen, the hat would dance along the streets and rooftops as if it had been bewitched. Special effects before there were cameras. I mean, computers. Now we have the cameras. Alice's movies came alive with color. Do you see what she's doing? She is literally painting the color to make colorized films. Wow, that's work. Hard, painstaking detail work. And sound, the very first talking pictures. They called them the talkies back then. Rival movie makers hired spies to sneak onto Alice's movie sets. Can you imagine? And to steal her stories. But girlfriend always came up with more. Alice was, as they say, unstoppable. Until her great adventure. What is the great adventure? What? Qu'est-ce que c'est? She lost her heart to a young cameraman, and they sailed off together to a distant land, America. That would explain all the French we were seeing at the beginning. She was in France. I wonder if she knows Gilles the giraffe. To Alice, les Américains seemed very strange. They thought a man named Thomas Edison invented moving pictures. They crowded into Nickelodeons to ooh and ah at movies with no sound, no color, not even a dancing hat. Wait a minute. Oh, Green Bear, we're in the middle of the story.
Yeah, I know. Quick question.
Okay, what is it?
Nickelodeon, isn't that like a channel for kids?
Yes, but it's named after the original name that they gave movies, the moving pictures as they called them back then. They called them Nickelodeons.
Oh, okay. Hey, you learn something new every day.
I know, that's kind of the point of living. So, they would go into these movies with no sound and no color, no dancing hats, but we know that Alice had been doing that already in La France. So, strangest of all, Americans had never heard of her, Alice. Mon Dieu! By now, Alice was busy with a bébé, but something had to be done. She took her baby and got back to work. Burr, burr, burr. She was not afraid. Alice would do anything to make her movies more exciting. Blow up a pirate ship? Boom! Why not? Crawl into a tiger's cage? Grrr. Of course. Well, that's exciting. She asked her leading lady to leap off of a bridge onto a speeding train. She tied up her leading man, then sent in hungry rats to rescue him by chewing through the ropes. You had to be a brave actor to work with Alice. It turned out that Americans were not so strange after all. They loved stories full of laughter and surprises, romance, adventure, thrills, and heartache. And they couldn't wait to see what Alice would come up with next. She is a great filmmaker, having everybody on the edge of their seats. Alice built a modern movie studio across the river from New York, 4 stories high with glass walls to let in the sun. Let's see, what do they call it? In Solex County, Fort Lee, New Jersey. Fort Lee, New Jersey! I've been there. It is right across from New York. Only the very best would do, for Alice meant her studio to last. And then everything changed. Burr, burr, burr. A severe test. Apparently, the Spanish flu is sweeping the country. The boys are marching off to war. The economy is collapsing. Millions are falling ill. Oh, no! Thanks to pioneers like Alice, movies had become big business. Well, this is the Capitol. This is the Douglas Fairbanks. The Mark of Zorro. Oh, Douglas Fairbanks in the Mark of Zorro at the Capitol Theater. Now, big business took over the movies. And suddenly, Alice's sparkling new studio seemed, well, tiny and old-fashioned and a long way from a place called Hollywood. Oh, that's right. She was on the other side of the country in New Jersey, which is not Hollywood, even though she was very Hollywood. Solak's night, show cancelled. Oh no. Audiences dwindled. Money disappeared. Even her husband ran away to Hollywood. Why didn't he take her with him? Ugh, the drama. Alice watched sadly as her studio was auctioned off. Sold to the highest bidder. Then she took her children and sailed back to France. And now, the next chapter, When the Tide Turns. Good name for a soap opera also. Alice, now we're back in France, had no studio, no actors, no costumes, no sets, not so much as a movie camera. But she was still the girl who lived on stories. And she had one last story left to tell. It was a story full of laughter and surprises, romance and adventure, thrills and heartache. Alice's story had everything, except, of course, an ending. Wait a minute, the pictures are telling us a story here. You watch over here, there's Alice sitting here. She's writing a memoir. That's a fancy French word for her autobiography, the story of her life. She couldn't wait to see what happened next. Oh, that's the end of the story. I can't believe that she ended up having to move back to France and lost her studio and her husband. Drama. Her story was a movie in and of itself. It tells us here, Alice Guy-Blaché, 1875 to 1968, was the first woman in the world to make movies and one of the very first movie makers, period. Boy or girl, first movie maker. Long before Hollywood turned from silent films to talkies, remember that's what they called movies when they started to have when you could hear audio, you could hear the words, because at first they were silent movies. Back before the silent films turned to talkies, Alice directed one of the very first sound films ever made. She was also the first to film made-up stories instead of real events. And some historians say that she was the first, while others credit the Lumiere brothers or Georges Méliès. Between 1896 and 1920, Alice made over 700 movies. I don't think anyone makes that many movies anymore. 700 movies, and her studio Solak's produced hundreds more. She earned the title Mother of the Movies. Wow. Apparently, the reason that we've never heard of her, and I had never heard of her, even though I too am a girl who likes to put stories on video for you, is that when the first film histories were written, this book tells us, her name was nowhere to be found. They mentioned her films, but the credit went to her male assistants, or even to men that she'd never heard of and had never directed a film. Why? Well, you're going to hear a lot of, different stories about why something like that would happen to a talented filmmaker like Alice. But one of the reasons is that back then, they didn't want to give credit to the ladies for the work that they did. They thought that pretty much anything that was outside the home was men's work. It's so silly to think that things were like that at all. I know, right? But there you go.
Things have changed now, though, right?
Oh, yes. Now the ladies who direct the films definitely get their names put on them. Thank goodness. And I know that I, too, would like to make the transition.
Oh, yeah? To become a movie maker instead of just an actress?
Yes, Green Bear. I've been penning a few different ideas.
Oh, yeah? Any parts for bears?
Absolutely. But they must be green.
I'm definitely going to audition, okay?
All right.
And you have to promise me the part.
All right. And there will, of course, be a beautiful leading lady ostrich. Oh, of course there will be. Any parts for, like maybe a storyteller? Oh, well, let me get back to you on that. Oh.
Yeah. Well, we'll call you in for auditions. Thanks, storyteller.
Oh, okay. I feel like I just got Aliced a little bit out of the segment. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed Lights, Camera, Alice! And now you know the thrilling true adventures, and you know that the ladies have been making the films long, long ago. See you next time, kid, on KidTime StoryTime.